A video recording from May 1983 shows a young boy's face filled with terror as he looks into the camera lens. And so, the camera moves erratically through a house as a man's voice thanks the father for coming to help him. He explains his wife is locked in the bedroom because she has become like a beast and can't even control her bowels. The man sits down, his voice trembling slightly as he admits he has a difficult question to ask. He worries about what will happen if even the father's exorcism fails to work. The two men stand before a dark hallway, and the husband finally decides it is time for them to go inside. The man, now identified as Mr. Smith, has a grim and determined look on his face as the priest follows behind him. The priest remains stoic, his expression serious and focused on the task ahead of them. A moment of silence hangs in the air as the recording continues, capturing the heavy atmosphere. Mr. Smith suddenly turns to the camera, asking what the person filming is looking at and telling Jack to turn it off. The priest calmly states that an exorcism requires 2 people, so Mr. Smith will need to assist him inside the room. Just before entering, the husband turns to Jack one last time, warning him not to come inside no matter what happens. The two men then disappear into the room, closing the heavy door behind them and leaving Jack alone in the hallway. For a moment, there is only silence as the camera stays focused on the closed door. The tension builds as Jack waits outside, the recording capturing nothing but the silent hallway. The footage fast forwards, indicating that a significant amount of time has passed. Suddenly, loud and disturbing sounds begin to emerge from behind the closed door, and despite the warning he was given, Jack reaches out and begins to turn the doorknob. With a soft click, he opens the door of the room, peering into the darkness within. Inside, he sees the priest on the floor in a state of shock, praying desperately to God for help. The priest screams in terror, begging for someone to save him and open the door immediately. But before he can escape, a monstrous hand grabs Mr. Smith and pulls him back into the darkness as he lets out a final scream. The door is left slightly ajar, showing only the deep, unsettling darkness within the room. And inside, a horrifying trail of blood leads to a mangled body on the floor, while a young boy's shadow looms in the doorway. A creature is hunched over the remains in the dark, its form twisted and inhuman. And suddenly, its eyes begin to glow with a menacing yellow light fixed on the doorway. The boy screams for his mom just as the terrifying figure lunges forward with incredible speed. Its contorted face, barely recognizable as human, rushes toward the camera lens. The recording distorts into static, capturing the monster's horrifying roar before cutting out. The playback on an old computer screen ends, leaving a faint glow in the dark room. A woman named Chloe McIntosh, a sheriff, sits at her desk, visibly disturbed by the footage she just watched, and she holds up the videotape, questioning if it was from a real event and not just a movie. Looking over the evidence on her desk, she calls the situation insane and wonders if the tape can even be used. Outside the sheriff's station, a heavy rain falls under a dark, stormy sky. The sheriff stands over her desk, feeling overwhelmed by the strange and disturbing case files. She recalls the report stating that the Smith family and a Catholic priest were all found dead at the scene. The primary suspect is another man dressed in a priest cassock, who was seen with a gun. This mysterious figure reportedly fired 2 shots, killing Mr. Smith's wife. The suspect denied the charges but was detained because there were numerous witnesses to the event. Sheriff McIntosh sits back down, looking over the file. She feels that something about this case is very strange. Looking at the gruesome photos, the sheriff reads that it was Mr. Smith's wife who killed him and their son. And she finds it strange because the wife has no record of psychiatric treatment, wondering how she became that monster. While lost in thought, a mysterious nun suddenly appears behind her, getting her attention. The sheriff lets out a startled scream, sending papers flying all over her desk in surprise. The nun calmly asks if she startled her, explaining she had been waiting quietly because the sheriff seemed busy. A flustered Chloe says it is fine but points out that outsiders are not allowed and asks who she is. At that moment, her superior calls her over, interrupting the conversation with the strange visitor, and he asks if she knows that people have come all the way from the Vatican in Rome. Her superior explains they are here to claim the body of the deceased priest, as well as the suspect. Chloe protests releasing the suspect, but he tells her not to get cocky and just follow their orders. He adds that they decided to assign someone from their own side to the case, just to be safe, and the superior then announces that Sheriff Chloe McIntosh will be in charge of the parole supervision. In front of the jail cell, Chloe warns the nun to be careful because the suspect, Mr. Burns, is still under suspicion. Inside the dark cell, a hand flicks open a metal lighter, illuminating the space with a small flame. The nun stands outside the bars with a slight smile, saying that they finally get to meet. She addresses the man inside as exorcist priest Vincent Burns while he lights a cigarette. A file identifies him as a former exorcist priest who is now a current demonologist. Sheriff McIntosh and the nun stand together outside the cell, the atmosphere tense and quiet. Vincent looks up from his cell, calmly asking why the Vatican is looking for him now. Then the nun explains that his former mentor, Father Andres, sent her because he needs his disciples' help, and Vincent finds it strange that the Vatican's chief exorcist is asking for help from him, an excommunicated priest. The nun solemnly informs him that his mentor, Father Andres, has passed away, leaving Vincent stunned. She reveals that 66 exorcist priests have been killed in 3 days, forcing the Vatican to suspend all official exorcisms. He remarks that almost half of them are dead now, finally understanding why requests for his services suddenly increased. The nun says she heard about his new line of work, running an office as a demonologist. She then makes an official request for his help, but the ex-priest remains silent for a long moment. After thinking it over, he drops his cigarette to the floor and asks if she is serious about her request. He leans against the bars of his cell and warns her that his rates are very expensive. The mysterious nun looks at him with confidence, unfazed by his warning. She swears on her name, Beatrice of Trappist Monastery, promising to give him anything he wants if he completes the job, and the sheriff watches in disbelief, questioning the nun's promise to give him everything. With the deal made, the heavy lock on Vincent's cell is open with a loud clank. Now free, Vincent casually tells the sheriff to buy him some Applejack and hand over her car keys. Later, in the car, he takes a drink from a small bottle while they travel. The nun explains their destination is a village that has been plagued by a mysterious disease for several months. Many doctors and priests were sent to investigate, but all contact with them was lost. She begs Vincent to save a young boy who is the last known person left alive in the village, and Chloe grips the steering wheel, annoyed, and asks why she is the one who has to drive them. Vincent casually suggests he could drive drunk instead, adding that he does not have a license, and so the sheriff glares at him, furiously telling him he shouldn't be drinking at all in their current situation. The sheriff warns him that if he tries anything suspicious, she will send him straight back to prison. Their car drives through the heavy rain toward a small, isolated church deep in the woods. They pull up to the building, which is surrounded by an old, rain-soaked cemetery. Inside, a distraught woman explains that the trouble began when her son suddenly attacked their family dog. After that, he began charging at people and destroying everything in the house. She then shows them her ear, revealing that her son had even attacked her during one of his fits. Vincent then turns and tells the sheriff to go get some tools from the car, leaving her confused. Ignoring him, Chloe asks the mother where the child is, and the woman nervously points upstairs. Meanwhile, the ex-priest is outside, retrieving a large, heavy case from the trunk of the car. He tells Beatrice that based on the symptoms, the boy is definitely possessed by a demon. Grabbing an axe, he prepares to go inside, but the nun says she will wait for him in the car. As he looks up at the dark church, a sudden, piercing scream echoes from inside the building. Startled by the sound, the sheriff looks up toward the second floor, wondering what is happening, and she turns to find the boy's mother lying on the floor with a serene expression on her face. Upstairs, she finds the young boy sitting alone in a wrecked room, sobbing quietly to himself. He looks up at her with pleading eyes, begging the sister to come and save him. Suddenly, the sheriff clutches her head, feeling a sharp and unexpected pain wash over her. She stumbles to her knees as small, writhing worms begin crawling out from under her skin. The officer lets out a scream of horror and pain, staring at her infested arm in disbelief. A closer look reveals the worms have strange, muscular bodies, unlike any normal parasite. A foot suddenly comes down, crushing the strange, muscular worms squirming on the floor. Vincent stands over the sheriff, casually telling her she is making a big fuss over just a few bugs, and Chloe frantically points at the bed, shouting that the bugs are not just on her but are also eating the child. The boy tied to the bed says his mom locked him in the room and that he is extremely thirsty, and Vincent holds up a bottle of alcohol, calmly telling the boy there is no water, but he can offer this instead. The child then complains that he is hungry, and the demonologist replies that he is hungry too. Annoyed, the boy demands to be untied, but Vincent wonders if he should tie up his visiting nephew like this. The child's eye suddenly turns black as he screams to be untied, but the ex-priest simply reveals he has no nephew. In an instant, the boy's hair transforms into a mass of dark, writhing tendrils that lash out. His face becomes a horrifying void, his eyes and mouth turning into gaping black holes as he lets out a shriek. Without hesitation, Vincent smashes the bottle over the creature's head, shattering the glass and splashing its contents. The broken bottle glows with a fiery red light as he angrily curses the demon for its deception. He then calmly takes out his lighter, flicking it open to create a small, steady flame in the dark room. The sheriff realizes what he is planning and yells for him to wait, her eyes wide with shock. But it is too late, as the demon is immediately engulfed in a roaring inferno, screaming in agony. The officer points her gun at him, asking if he is insane for killing someone right in front of her. Vincent calmly gestures to the blaze, asking if the thing burning in the fire looks human to her. And so voice then speaks from within the flames, acknowledging that Vincent burns is indeed impressive. And so, the fiery demon reveals that Vincent's name is known among its kind, and they are warned to be cautious of him. It then tells the demonologist that stepping foot into this place was a foolish mistake. The sheriff turns in shock as the boy's mother appears behind her, her face suddenly twisting into a monstrous grin. This creature, which had been posing as the mother, then lunges forward with a horrifying shriek. Its body contorts and stretches in an unnatural way as it launches its attack, revealing its true demonic form. But Vincent is not surprised, saying he knows this type of demon. The creature falls to the floor, engulfed in flames. He identifies the creature as a ghoul, a type of demon that dwells inside corpses and infects them. So the ex-priest then reveals the shocking truth. There were never any living people in this house from the very beginning. The main demon burning on the altar mockingly asks if he is only talking about the house, its tone sinister. And so it then corrects itself, saying he should be worried about the entire village, and asks if he can handle its army. Outside, Beatrice watches the chaos unfold from the safety of the car, her expression calm and observant. And so a massive horde of ghouls now surrounds the church, their sheer numbers looking dangerously overwhelming. The sheriff fires her gun, but the bullets fall uselessly to the floor, having no effect on the demonic horde. Vincent explains that ordinary weapons do not work on demons and tells her to fight using special bullets he provides. And she looks out at the terrifying creatures gathering outside, her fear growing with every passing moment. The demonologist warns her to focus on combat if she has any intention of surviving the coming battle. At that moment, the ghouls smash through the church's stained glass windows, pouring in from all sides. Vincent immediately springs into action, his bladed holy sash whipping through the air like a deadly weapon. He dives into the horde, unleashing a powerful wave of holy energy that sends the ghouls flying backward. His shirt tears away, revealing holy chains wrapped around his torso as he asks if they can handle him. He confidently declares he can take on as many as they want because this is the mission given to him by the Lord. Undeterred, the horde of ghouls continues its relentless charge, ready to overwhelm the lone demonologist. Vincent swings his axe with brutal force, smashing it into a ghoul's head and causing a splash of yellow energy. He moves with incredible speed, cutting through the horde with a single, fluid motion that leaves a trail of light. A massive wave of ghouls then descends upon him from above, their numbers seeming endless as they fall. One particularly large ghoul with a grotesque, glowing grin steps forward, appearing much stronger than the others. Vincent leaps high into the air, his holy chains swirling around him as the ghouls reach up from below. With a confident smirk, he pulls the chains taut, gathering a massive amount of holy energy for his next attack. He unleashes the chains in a devastating cross-shaped wave, tearing through the horde and leaving destruction in its wake. Meanwhile, the sheriff kneels on the floor, firing her gun repeatedly into the crowd of advancing ghouls. The two of them fight back to back, a chaotic dance of bullets and chains against the relentless demonic assault. Despite the overwhelming odds, Chloe holds her ground, her expression now filled with grim determination. A close-up reveals a glowing holy symbol on Vincent's sash, a clear sign of its divine power. And so they are completely surrounded, but they fight on, their combined efforts creating a whirlwind of destruction. The demonologist then pulls out two guns, firing relentlessly into the horde with a wild and ferocious grin. The main demon watches from the altar, its fiery form flickering as it expresses its disbelief at the scene. It questions how a mere priest could possess such incredible power as Vincent stands victorious over a pile of ghouls. And so, the ex-priest simply tells the demon it should have listened to the warnings from the others about him. And he then walks up to the flaming demon and grabs it by the face, preparing to deliver the final blow. In his other hand he holds a small, glowing cross, radiating with immense and concentrated holy energy. The powerful artifact shines brightly as he pulls his arm back, ready to strike the demon down for good. He then thrusts the glowing cross directly in the demon's eye, unleashing a final, blinding burst of holy light. He holds the demon's skull, declaring he is a demonologist, not a soft priest who simply banishes demons. And so the holy cross burns brightly as he warns the creature that it will not be returning to hell so easily. The sheriff watches, exhausted, as he explains the demon must be freed from its sin first. The demon's skeleton is pierced all over by dozens of small, glowing crosses, sealing it in place. Crucified by holy light, the creature is trapped as Vincent says it will now spend a long time with him. Through the broken stained glass window, the moon hangs in the sky as the demonologist says a final amen. As the church burns under the heavy rain, he begins a quiet prayer for the victims of the village. He prays for the sacrificed souls to rest peacefully, as they were tragically swept away by the darkness. Looking at the blazing structure, he asks that they be guided safely to God's peaceful kingdom. The reflection of the fire dances on his axe as he wishes for them to finally find their quiet rest. And so he then vows to continue his fight so that the deaths of the fallen will not have been in vain. With his eyes closed, he finishes the solemn prayer, asking for the Lord's mercy and peace. The next day, he stands in a field filled with newly made graves, saying a final amen for the dead. The sheriff then pulls up in the car with a bright smile, telling him that she brought the vehicle. He turns to her, stating that he never asked her to do that, but she insists she should at least drive. Lighting a cigarette, he tells her there is no need for flattery, as he is used to being doubted, and suddenly, the skull on his belt shouts, cursing him and vowing to never forget this humiliation. The officer looks over in shock, asking why he has not dealt with the talking skull yet. He explains that dead demons simply return to hell, which makes death a trivial matter to them, and he then presses a cross to the skull's forehead, causing it to let out another pained scream. So with a sinister grin, he says that demons should suffer as much as the sins they have committed. The sheriff watches him, thinking to herself that this man is definitely not in his right mind. The nun then interrupts, telling them it is time to hurry along to the second request, and Solo is shocked they are not going back and immediately regrets offering to drive for them. Beatrice explains that the demons who have stolen human bodies are already moving toward their goal. The skull suddenly reacts as she reveals that the object the demons are looking for is nearby. Their car continues down a winding road, cutting through a vast and desolate canyon landscape. Inside, Vincent finds it strange that the Vatican is storing the demon's target in America instead of keeping it safe, and the nun begins to explain that Father Andres wanted to entrust something important to him. He interrupts her, annoyed, asking if she is talking about the same man who had him excommunicated. Curious, the sheriff asks from the driver's seat why Mr. Vincent was expelled from the Vatican. Beatrice explains that he was kicked out because he violated several of their most sacred taboos. She lists his crimes, including stealing holy relics to make weapons and hunting demons with violent methods, and Vincent just listens quietly, staring out the window as the car drives on through the desert. And the nun adds that he is also famous for secretly building an entire armory in the cathedral's basement. At that moment, the demonologist's eye narrows as he seems to sense something up ahead on the road, and so he suddenly tells the sheriff to turn the car around, startling her with his abrupt command. He warns her that the road they are on is dangerous, but she continues driving straight ahead, and he yells at her to turn around, but she protests, arguing that they will fall off the mountain if she tries. The nun then grabs the steering wheel, asking why she can't just turn the car around normally. With a loud screech, the car swerves violently, its tires kicking up dust as it makes a sharp turn. The nun calmly asks if she sees now, having successfully avoided whatever danger was ahead. And so, in the rearview mirror of a school bus, their car can be seen speeding away down the road. The yellow school bus then makes a sudden, aggressive turn, chasing after their smaller vehicle. Inside the bus, one of the passengers asks the driver to please stop for a moment. The driver turns, revealing a grotesque, demonic face with sharp teeth and glowing yellow eyes. With a sudden burst of speed, the bus's engine roars as it rapidly closes the distance. The massive vehicle rams into their car from behind, sending them lurching forward with a loud crash. Chloe screams in terror as Vincent calmly notes that the passengers are demons, just as he expected. The side door of the car is suddenly torn off its hinges, exposing them to the open road. Without a moment's hesitation, Vincent leaps out of the car and onto its roof, facing the oncoming bus, and he then jumps from the car, soaring through the air directly toward the demonic school bus. With a crash, he smashes through the front windshield, landing right in front of the demon driver. He lands gracefully inside the bus, the shattered glass raining down around him as he stands ready for a fight. He admits that while he knew there would be demons, he did not expect the entire bus to be packed full of them. The bus is filled with dozens of demons, all of them looking identical and staring at him with menacing grins. He pulls out a large, glowing knife, remarking on how cute they are for sitting so properly in their seats. So, with a smirk, he says he should probably contact their teacher to let them know they will be absent today. He then shoots the demon closest to him, the holy bullet creating a bright flash of light upon impact, and the other demons on the bus watch in stunned silence as their companion is instantly obliterated. With the driver gone, the bus is now out of control, its burning steering wheel spinning uselessly. Vincent stands alone, a dark silhouette against the fiery chaos as the demons swarm around him. He cuts and shoots his way through the horde, his movements a blur of holy light and brutal force. The narrow bus Azel becomes a chaotic battlefield as he single-handedly takes on the entire demonic crowd. He fights with relentless fury, his holy weapons tearing through the demons and leaving a trail of destruction. The bus then veers off the road, crashing through the guardrail and plummeting into the canyon below. As it falls, the bus begins to break apart, the metal frame groaning under the immense strain. Even as they fall, Vincent continues his assault, his guns blazing as he is tossed around in the chaos. The bus finally smashes into the canyon wall, the impact sending a shower of sparks and durs into the air. One of the demons is sent flying out of the bus, its body flailing as it falls to its doom. The demonologist leaps through the air, his blades flashing as he continues to fight the demons in mid-air. He plunges his glowing sword down into a demon's head, the holy energy instantly vaporizing it. The wreckage of the bus finally comes to a rest at the bottom of the canyon with a deafening crash. The bus is now a twisted mess of metal, smoke billowing from the destroyed engine. The back door of the bus is suddenly kicked open from the inside, sending it flying off its hinges. One of the demons emerges from the wreckage, clutching a large, mysterious briefcase in its hands. It turns to face the demonologist, its face splitting open to reveal a much more sinister form underneath. A powerful, high-ranking demon now stands before him, its voice mocking him for trying to run away. It gestures to the briefcase, asking if he is so desperate to get his hands on it. The skull on Vincent's belt looks up at the powerful new foe, calling it a tenacious bastard. The demon is surprised that even after the intense battle, none of Vincent's group died, demanding to know what trick he used. But the demonologist ignores him, instead looking off to the side as their car comes sliding down a nearby hill. The nun cheerfully says they came down safely, but the terrified sheriff says she never wants to do that again. And so Vincent picks up the briefcase dropped by the demon, asking if it was the item they were carrying. He notes that it is rare for demons to run away, meaning the contents of the case must be incredibly valuable to them. Beatrice walks over to the car, telling him to take a look at the emblem on the front of the case. She points out the papal coat of arms, a symbol of the highest authority in the Vatican. And so with a sigh, the demonologist realizes this must be what they were looking for, but the demons got to it first. The skull on his belt suddenly screams his name, frantically telling him not to open the bag under any circumstances. It warns that the case contains something that mere humans should not dare to handle, but Vincent remains curious. He asks the skull what is inside, but it nervously admits that it does not know the answer, and the skull explains that even the higher-up demons were not told what it was, which only deepens the mystery. And Sheriff nervously asks if he is really going to open it, feeling a deep sense of anxiety about the situation. He simply says they can just check what is inside, and then close it again if they need to. With a determined look, he reaches out and begins to unlatch the mysterious briefcase. The moment he opens it, a brilliant and blinding golden light erupts from within, illuminating their faces. Inside, they find a young ethereal-looking person curled up and asleep, their body glowing with a soft light. The sheriff nervously asks if he is really going to open it, feeling a deep sense of anxiety about the situation. He simply says they can just check what is inside and then close it again if they need to. With a determined look, he reaches out and begins to unlatch the mysterious briefcase. And staring into the glowing case, they are all left speechless by the unexpected sight before them. They see a person with long, white hair curled up inside, sleeping peacefully amidst the golden light, and the sheriff wonders if it could be a corpse, and Vincent agrees that it is a possibility. He reaches in and checks for a pulse, confirming that the person is not breathing and has no heartbeat. He then asks who this person is, but the nun admits that she does not know either, and she explains that she was not told anything about the contents of the case, only that it was important. And so Vincent closes the case and says they should head to their original destination to look for clues. They arrive at a large dilapidated church surrounded by a cemetery filled with crumbling angel statues. The statues are weathered and broken, their praying hands now just jagged pieces of stone. The demonologist walks toward the church, noting that everything around them is completely destroyed. The sheriff salutes and says she will wait outside, as it would be too difficult for her to enter with the heavy case. She then turns to the nun and asks for her help, but Beatrice is nowhere to be seen. And she spots the nun and Vincent already walking up the steps to the church and calls out to them. And so she warns them to be careful, as there could be more demons waiting for them inside the building. Beatrice just smiles and says that being near Mr. Vincent seems like the safest place to be right now. And the sheriff stands alone for a moment before deciding she does not want to be left behind. And so she grabs the heavy case and runs after them, determined to stick with the group no matter what. Inside, they find a gruesome scene of destruction, with broken pews and bodies scattered everywhere. Bloodstains and lifeless figures litter the floor, a grim testament to a recent and violent struggle. And Vincent looks over the carnage, his expression grim as he tells the two women to investigate the other floors. The sheriff refuses, saying she is too scared to go alone and does not want to leave his side. And so, he tells her one of the bodies is clutching something, but the organs are stuck together, making it hard to remove. And she reluctantly agrees to go upstairs with the nun but makes him promise to help her if she screams. While they are gone, he pulls a blood-soaked book from the grasp of one of the deceased priests. He examines the book, its pages stained with dried blood, and wonders what secrets it might hold. He sits down on a nearby pew, the heavy silence of the church pressing in around him as he opens the diary. And he finds nothing special at first, noting that it seems to be just an ordinary priest's diary. He flips through the pages, but the back section is completely soaked in blood and impossible to read. As he is about to close the book, he notices something strange about one of the pages near the back, and so holds it up, realizing that only this specific page has a different color from all the others. He gently rubs his thumb over the page, trying to figure out what makes it so different. Using his lighter, he discovers the page is covered with a special pigment that reacts to heat, revealing hidden text. He begins to read the hidden entry, which describes a mysterious woman who came to visit the church. The diary entry recounts the day the woman arrived, her presence casting a dark shadow over the once peaceful church. The priest writing the diary immediately knew why she had come when he saw her skin, which had turned to stone. She told him she had been hearing strange whispers and suffering from terrible nightmares, classic signs of possession. The priest was relieved that the chief exorcist, Father Andres, was there to help, confident he could save her. But something went wrong, and the exorcism did not work. The woman's symptoms only grew worse, and Father Andres then entrusted the priests with 2 mysterious boxes before leaving in a hurry. And so, in the end, they were forced to lock the possessed woman in the basement, praying for forgiveness for their failure. He closes the diary, now understanding that there is a powerful demon locked away in the church's basement, and the camera pans down to the basement entrance, where a broken wooden chair lies in pieces on the floor. Meanwhile, upstairs the sheriff and the nun are searching a long, dark hallway with a distinct geometric carpet, and so the officer feels a sense of relief from the light streaming through a broken window, putting her mind at ease. The nun sarcastically remarks that it is nice all the windows are broken, but the sheriff just sighs in response. Suddenly Beatrice stops in her tracks, her eyes widening as she senses something unusual nearby. Hidden behind a curtain, she finds a golden, ornate chalice, which she immediately recognizes as a holy relic. The sheriff asks how she knew right away, and the nun simply says she is involved in related work. She finds no other clues related to the mysterious box, suggesting they move on to the next area. And so they head down the hall to the last room, the atmosphere growing more tense and unsettling with each step. The sheriff walks cautiously, her senses on high alert as she scans the dark and eerie corridor, and she then notices a stone statue standing in the hallway that was not there before, its presence unnerving. The statue is of a woman, her stone face serene but with a strange, dark stain over her heart. Chloe turns to the nun, a feeling of dread washing over her as she looks back at the statue, and she asks Beatrice if she remembers seeing the statue when they first came up, but gets no answer. She points out that there was no stone statue in the hallway before, her voice trembling slightly. The statue's eye then crumbles away, revealing a dark, swirling void underneath the stone. The sheriff gasps in horror, asking if the statue just moved as it begins to drag a heavy axe. The stone figure then takes a step forward, its movements slow and deliberate as it advances down the hall. The officer quickly draws her gun, warning the creature not to come any closer with her demon-killing weapon. The stone statue lets out a terrifying scream as it raises its heavy axe, ready to strike them down. Without hesitation, the sheriff fires her gun, the muzzle flashing brightly in the dimly lit hallway. The holy bullet hits the statue directly in the forehead, but it only chips the stone, having little effect. The creature continues its advance, its stone mouth wide open in a silent, horrifying scream of rage. Just as it swings its axe, the nun leaps in front of Chloe, blocking the attack with the holy chalice, and she calmly tells the sheriff that the creature's stone skin is too hard for bullets to penetrate, and she then slips a holy card into a keyhole on the wall, a desperate attempt to create an escape route. With the statue still advancing, the sheriff screams for Mr. Vincent to come and help them. They run down a narrow side hall and find a locked door, their only hope of escaping the creature. The officer desperately jiggles the doorknob, but the old lock is stuck and will not budge. They find themselves trapped, the sound of the dragging axe growing louder and closer with each passing second. A dark, sticky substance begins to seep from the bottom of the door, adding to the growing sense of dread. The sheriff cautiously approaches the door, her gun raised as she tries to see what is on the other side. She leans in to peek through a small crack, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and curiosity. A piece of the door suddenly breaks away, and she lets out a terrified scream at the sight. Through the hole, she sees a grotesque mass of writhing, bloodshot eyeballs staring back at her, and she stumbles back in horror, calling out for Mr. Vincent to come and help them as quickly as he can. As she backs away, the mysterious case on the floor behind her begins to glow with a faint, golden light. The light grows brighter, illuminating the dark room and casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. Inside the case, the once sleeping person's eyes slowly open, revealing pupils that glow with a brilliant golden light. A close-up shows the glowing golden eyes of the person in the case, radiating an immense and mysterious power. The door suddenly bursts open, and the sheriff screams as the stone statue smashes through the wood, and through the hole she sees a grotesque mass of writhing, bloodshot eyeballs staring back at her. She stumbles back in horror, calling out for Mr. Vincent to come and help them as quickly as he can. But downstairs, the demonologist is on his knees, blood dripping from his head as he struggles to recover. A quick flashback shows the school bus and the car driving side by side on the deserted road. The skull on Vincent's belt, now hanging from the car's rearview mirror, calls out his name. It complains about being put on display like a common ornament, furious at the indignity. The skull then grins, saying that demons are known for one thing in particular, their cunning. It explains that they always strike when their opponent lets their guard down, just as 2 centipedes crawl from its mouth. In the wreckage of the bus, the surviving demons are surrounded by a swarm of large, demonic centipedes. A powerful demon offers them a chance at revenge against the human who defeated them. He tells them to surrender their bodies, and the centipedes begin to crawl onto the defeated demons. A powerful demon named Lord Alker appears, his body split in half as he is surrounded by the centipedes. He promises to grant their wish for revenge, his voice echoing with dark and sinister power. Back in the present, the stone statue smashes its fist through the door, getting closer to the trapped women, and the sheriff panics, realizing that at this rate, the creature will break through the door at any moment. She curses in frustration and punches the wall, her knuckles scraping against the rough surface. She cries out in pain, looking at her bruised and bleeding hand in frustration and fear. At that moment, a hand reaches out and grabs the handle of a heavy axe lying on the floor. Filled with a surge of adrenaline, the sheriff spits on the floor and swings the heavy axe with all her might. She is bruised and battered, but her eyes are filled with a fierce and unwavering determination to fight, and she tells the nun that it is no use and that this is the end for them. But Beatrice has another idea. She points to a holy water font in the room, suggesting they try using it against the creature. The nun explains that holy water is often used in exorcisms and could be effective against the demon, and she tells Chloe to pour the holy water on the statue's face, as its stone body is too tough to damage. The sheriff grabs the chalice and rushes forward just as the statue raises its axe for another attack. With a wild grin, she dodges the attack and prepares to splash the holy water on the creature. She throws the contents of the chalice with all her strength, aiming directly for the statue's face. The holy water splashes across the creature's stone head, causing it to sizzle and steam on impact, and the statue reels back in pain, its stone face melting and contorting as the holy water burns it. The officer clenches fist in victory, a triumphant grin spreading across her face as she sees it worked. But then, the statue speaks, its voice filled with sorrow as it reminds her that she promised to save it. It asks why she did not hold on until the very end, its words echoing with a deep sense of betrayal. The creature cries, stone tears rolling down its face as it accuses her of turning it into a monster. It asks if she now wants to get rid of it, its voice filled with a heartbreaking mix of anger and despair. The nun places a hand on the sheriff's shoulder, her expression serious as she gives her a stern warning. She tells her not to be fooled by the creature's words, reminding her that it is a demon, and the demon is simply reading and mimicking human memories to manipulate her emotions. And she explains that a possessed person who misses their chance at salvation can never return to being human again. The nun tells the officer that if she truly cares for the soul inside the statue, she must let it go. She picks up the large, golden chalice filled with holy water, ignoring the strange warning. With a determined look, the officer rushes forward, preparing to confront the stone creature. It raises its axe and roars, calling them frauds as it prepares to strike her down. The heavy chalice smashes against the creature's stone head, the impact echoing in the hall. The young officer grits her teeth, putting all of her strength into the desperate attack. She slams the font down again, forcing the holy water directly on the monster's face. A bright light erupts from the point of impact as the holy water begins to react violently. The resulting explosion sends a massive cloud of steam and dust billowing through the room. The officer covers her face with her arm, trying to see through the thick, choking smoke. As the dust settles, the shattered fragments of the statue's head are seen falling apart. Relieved, she turns to the nun in the background and shouts that they finally did it. But her companion urgently warns her that the fight is not over yet, and so Nun desperately yells for her to get out of there as quickly as she can. The ground beneath the officer suddenly gives way, revealing the monster's true form below. A grotesque creature of flesh eyes and an exposed brain emerges from the wreckage. The monster spews a bright yellow, sticky substance directly from its horrifying maw. The blast hits the officer, pinning her against the wall as the substance traps her. The creature roars in fury, questioning how she dared to use filthy holy water on it. It then demands to know why she has the box meant for Lord Mill as she screams for Mr. Vincent. A sticky yellow substance covers her mouth, muffling her screams of terror. The monster taunts her, saying that the priest she's calling for will not come to save her. It reveals that the man didn't even notice its presence until the very moment he died. The creature's maw opens to reveal sharp claws, and it sneers at her terrified eyes. It tells her that it likes them and plans to collect her eyes just like it did with the others. At that moment, a hand calmly reaches down and picks up a bloody axe from the floor nearby. A voice asks if Mill is the name of the demon orchestrating this entire incident. Suddenly, a small vial of holy water is thrown, flying directly toward one of the monster's eyes. Mr. Vincent now stands before the creature, his axe held firmly as he prepares for battle. With a swift movement, he slices through one of the demon's eye stalks with his weapon. He lands solidly and observes that this particular demon must be a high-ranking one. The demonologist bases this assumption on how other demons seem to follow its master. He then looks at the creature, his body bruised and cut, and asks about its plan. The monster recognizes him, stammering in shock that it had already split his head open with an axe. And furious, the creature roars that it will kill him for sure this time and prepares to attack. Meanwhile, the nun uses two blessed daggers to carefully cut the officer free from the sticky substance. The monster's attack connects, its sharp claws piercing deep into the demonologist's shoulder, but he seems unfazed by the pain, simply telling the snail-like demon to try harder. He stares down at the monster with contempt, asking if this is truly the best it can do. The demon stammers in disbelief as Vincent grabs its eye stalks with his bare hands, ready to crush them. Vincent calmly tells the creature that defeating it is not a difficult task for him. He explains that after continuously killing demons, he has reached a point where their attacks no longer harm him. As he speaks, he snaps one of the monster's eye stalks, saying that just as humans cannot kill demons, the creature cannot kill him either. He stands victorious, holding the severed eye stalks. The officer is now free from the sticky substance, her face showing the lingering shock from the ordeal. The nun watches the demonologist and says that she finally understands everything. She now realizes why Father Andrews specifically sought out Mr. Vincent for this dangerous mission. She recalls ancient records of humans who gained supernatural powers after killing demons, and looking at the remains of the monster, she comes to a startling conclusion about the man. She realizes that Mr. Vincent is far from being an ordinary human being. Elsewhere, a demon taunts a younger Vincent Burns, saying he cannot defeat them. Another priest warns that Hell's army will bring the end, but Vincent calmly questions his confidence. He tells the man to summon the army now, holding up a jar with a trapped demon inside, surprising the priest. Flustered, the priest tells him to shut up, refusing to reveal any information about his plans. Vincent says that is not the answer he wanted and casually tosses the jar to a nearby nun. He tells her to act as a bartender and shake the jar until the demon spills some useful information. The nun happily begins shaking the jar, causing the demon inside to scream in agony. Back in the present, the officer stares at Mr. Vincent, her expression filled with awe and confusion. She quietly asks herself if the demonologist standing before her is even human. He simply walks away from the scene, cryptically replying that nobody really knows. The demonologist admits he once prayed he would become anything, as long as he could kill demons. As he walks away, he reminds the officer not to forget the bag she was carrying. The young woman lifts the brown suitcase, questioning why it feels so light. She opens it to find that the case is completely empty inside. Mr. Vincent turns back, stating the kid is not there and asks if she guarded it properly. The officer looks shocked, insisting that she had it with her the entire way to this room. Meanwhile, the nun quietly examines a small, intricate box she is holding in her hands, and so suddenly, a loud noise echoes through the room, and the three of them look startled. Elsewhere, a vehicle is parked on a dirt road with a large church visible in the distance. A figure wearing a skull mask declares it is time to attack now that the demonologist has let his guard down. Standing before a crowd of gulls, the leader holds the mask up and announces his plan. He reveals that their target's vehicle is loaded with powerful explosives, and so, their mission is to plant the bombs inside the church and blow up the entire building. One of the gulls expresses concern, asking if the item they are after will also be destroyed. The leader reassures them, explaining that their target cannot be destroyed without a special method. He then orders his minions to install the explosives quickly, and they begin to mobilize. And the skull-masked figure declares he will turn the dead into his gulls to work for him. He laughs maniacally while his undead servants stand around, but a small girl is among them. A young girl with long white hair stands silently in the field, watching the gulls. The leader finally spots her, turning in shock to demand how long she has been there, and so he states there is no way she could have walked there by herself across the desolate wasteland. The barren landscape stretches out for miles, seemingly devoid of any life. One of the gulls questions his leader's idea to turn the boy into one of them, but the other monsters ignore the concern and begin to swarm the silent, white-haired child, and so they lunge forward, their monstrous hands reaching out to grab the small figure. However, as they touch him, the gulls suddenly begin to convulse and cry out in pain. The leader yells for them to stop, ordering his minions to proceed to the church as planned. He repeats his command, reminding them that he only told them to go that far and no further. Frustrated, he shouts at them again, demanding to know why they are ignoring his orders. At that moment, beautiful white flowers start blooming all over the gulls' bodies. The leader stares in shock, realizing that his entire undead army has just been wiped out. The last of his minions crumbles into dust right in front of him, leaving him completely alone. Suddenly, Mr. Vincent appears, aiming a peculiar gun at the skull mask figure. The demonologist grabs the mask, scolding him for causing trouble while he was gone. The terrified figure nervously tells him to wait, pointing at something just behind him. The officer is pointing in shock, wondering why the strange child from the box is there. Red rose petals begin to fall from the sky, floating gently around the mysterious boy. He stands perfectly still, a single petal resting in the palm of his outstretched hand. The officer stares, realizing the boy was alive the whole time and questions if he is a demon, but the demonologist thinks that since the child killed demons, he may be closer to an angel. Mr. Vincent looks at the mysterious boy and asks what exactly he is. In response, the child simply stretches his arms out to the sides, forming a T pose. The officer guesses it is the letter T, while the nun suggests it might be a cross. Without a word, the demonologist grabs the boy by his white robe. He then places the child back inside the large, empty suitcase he came from. The lid is shut, and the case is securely locked once again, and so he decides he should contact the Vatican, but the officer notes that he looks like a kidnapper now. The demonologist replies that it would be a problem if the child wanders off again. But as he tries to walk, the officer is suddenly lifted and thrown onto his shoulder. She nervously says the child probably does not want to go back in, which annoys the man. Meanwhile, in a large sunlit city, life seems to be carrying on as usual. In a dark back alley, two people chat while a large muscular man waits patiently. The waiting man holds a small cup and comments that the people he is waiting for are late. At that moment, two tough-looking men approach him from the other end of the alley, and so wonders if he gave his associates too difficult a task as one of the strangers calls out to him. The man with sunglasses informs him that this alley is Red Faction territory. The muscular figure apologizes, explaining he is just meeting someone and tries to excuse himself, but the stranger pulls out a gun, stating that there is, in fact, a problem. He mocks the man for drinking expensive coffee in a back alley like some rich fool. His partner chuckles, telling him not to scare their visitor too much before he gets messy. With incredible speed, the muscular man grabs the gun's barrel, stopping it just before it fires. He calmly looks down at the thug, completely unfazed by the weapon pointed at him. The bald thug yells in shock, realizing his partner actually pulled the trigger on the man. A bullet hole appears on the muscular man's chest, and a single drop of blood trickles down. The shooter screams in terror, clutching his head in disbelief at what just happened. A close-up reveals the muscular man's glowing red eye as his expression darkens. With a menacing aura, he calls them insignificant and worthless creatures. In a flash, he grabs the shooter's head, causing it to explode violently. The remaining thug falls to the ground, paralyzed with fear at the gruesome scene. Standing over the bodies, he coldly states that his associates will have to go instead. He summons strange bird-like creatures and orders them to search the bus and secure the keys. And so he adds that if the keys are not there, they must find out who is responsible no matter what. He then turns his attention back to the terrified survivor, who can only stammer in fear. The powerful figure grins and asks the man to keep him company while he waits, getting a nervous reply.